Shalom, everyone, and I want to welcome you to Wow equals Words of Wisdom number 30. Adequate preparation is necessary for a restful Shabbat. If you truly want to enjoy your Sabbath day or your Shabbat, you really need to make sure that you are putting in the time during the week to adequately prepare so that on the Sabbath day or Shabbat, you're not thinking about all of the things that you didn't do during the week. This is part of that preparation that needs to take place, that is very, very necessary. Um, Number one, don't waste your time during the week. This is very, very important to go towards your preparation. If you're wasting the other 6 days, if you're not taking care of your responsibilities, um, at work, at home, with the family, whatever your responsibilities are, and they're different for all of us, okay, because all of us are in different situations, then when it's time for you to rest, on the Sabbath day or on Shabbat, your mind is going to go to, good morning, Sister Kathy, welcome. Your mind is going to go to all of the things that you did not do during the week. And you're not going to be truly resting. And you're also going to be tempted to go do those things that you didn't take care of during the week. And that has happened to me, especially when I first started observing Shabbat. My mind, I couldn't stop thinking about all of the things that I didn't do during the week. And I was already so used to and geared to taking care of those things on that day that I didn't get to do during the week, because that's what everybody is doing in society. Okay. And so when you have to really, you know, deprogram yourself from that mindset, that means that you have to carry yourself a different way during the week. That means that you have to be responsible and you have to be an excellent steward over your time during those 6 days. Okay. So that you're not sitting there on the Sabbath day or on Shabbat thinking, oh man, I didn't clean the house. Oh man, I didn't take care of this. Oh man, I didn't do this. I didn't do that. And that's what used to happen to me. And so I had to be more organized. I had to be more mindful about how I was spending my time during the week. And it really helped me to understand that that is just as much a part of your preparation for the Sabbath day as anything else. We hear a lot about, how do I celebrate the Sabbath, or how do I observe the Sabbath? Well, a lot of it has to do with what you do on the other 6 days. Just as much as what you do on that actual day. How do you, you know, um, invest your time during the week so that you don't feel guilty about resting? That's the day that we're commanded to rest. But what are you resting from? The work that you're doing during the week on the other 6 days. So in order for you to truly be resting, there should be some work and some preparation that is taking place on those other 6 days. Take care of your responsibilities on those other 6 days. If you work outside of the home, you know, especially those, the sisters, you work outside of the home, and you have children, then your preparation is going to be different than other people who, maybe don't have children, or don't work outside of the home. All of our preparation, how we invest our time during the week, is key. It is very, very, it is different. And so I want to go, that's the next thing. First of all, make sure that you're not wasting your time during the week. Make sure that you're taking care of your responsibilities during the week, so that you're not tempted to do those things on the Sabbath day because you haven't done them during the week, and think about what you have to do. If you have children, okay, You have to think about, you have to prepare them as well. You know, if you have things that you have to do with and for your children in order to be adequately prepared for the Sabbath day, for Shabbat, then make sure that those responsibilities are taken care of. You know, if you have to prepare those children, you know, your children mentally and emotionally and spiritually, make sure that you're doing that. Explain to them, get them involved in the preparation. You know, remind them, you know, remind your sons, remind your daughters. Remember, the Sabbath day is coming up, Shabbat is coming up. We have to get ready, we have to get prepared. You know, give them, you know, assignments. You know, make sure that they're taking care of their responsibilities in preparation for the Shabbat. If your children are old enough to do chores and to clean and do things around the house, you know, make sure that they are taking care of those responsibilities and help them to understand why we do these things on the other 6 days and why we don't do them on the Sabbath day. So they're not just mindlessly going through the motions, but they understand why they're doing what they're doing and why they're not doing it on this day as opposed to the other 6 days. You know, we've gone through a lot of our lives just doing things because other people are doing them, or that's what society says is the norm. But it's time out for all of that. It's time out for teaching our children to just go along to get along. Teach them why you prepare for this day once a week, okay? And why they're doing what they're doing, why the family is doing it, you know, together. And, you know, if there's things that you're going to be doing with your children, you know, on the Sabbath day, if there's lessons that you're going to be teaching your children on that day, make sure that you get those things prepared. If it's worksheets, if it's coloring sheets, or whatever it is that you do with your children, okay, make sure that you prepare those things in advance. You know, that's not the time to go out, you know, to Office Max or wherever, you know, and get those things ran off. Or even if you know, you have a printer at home or whatever, get those things together in advance that you're going to be doing with your children on the Sabbath day that has to do with scripture, that has to do with the Most High Yah. You know, if there's particular songs that you're going to sing with them during your time where you're doing praise and worship and everything, you know, get those things together in advance. The cooking, if you know that you want to eat certain things on the Sabbath and you know you're not going to be sitting down there and on that day you're not supposed to be doing any laborious work, okay, then make sure that you get that menu together in advance, okay? Make sure that you get it together in advance. Don't let it be a last minute thing, especially if you have a big family. Okay, even if it's just you. Some people are single and they're observing the Sabbath by themselves. Some people it's just them and their spouse. Okay, you have to think about these things. Some people, some of the family observes the Sabbath and some of them don't. All of these are different, you know, scenarios that all of us are in. Okay, and other people, some people, they don't, they have people in their household that don't observe the Sabbath, but the other person does. You know, you may have to have a conversation with them so that they will know, you know, hey, I observe the Sabbath on this day, and you know, these are the things that I don't do on this day, so forth and so on, so that that person will know and understand, okay, I'm not going to be bothering them to go shopping or to talk to them about whatever, you know, so that you can stay focused on resting and observing the Sabbath as we are instructed in the scriptures. These are all part of that preparation. And a lot of times we don't think about it and we end up frustrated on the Sabbath because we haven't taken much time to, you know, prepare or put any thought into these external factors that really need to be thought about and thought out so that when we are observing the Sabbath, this is something that we're doing as unto the Most High Yah. We're resting, we're thinking about it with delight, we're looking forward to it because we've put in the adequate preparation and the adequate time. And so this is very, very important that we think these things out. You know, if you're, like I said, if you're going to, some people, they order food out, and have it, brought in prior to the start of the Sabbath so that they don't have to do any cooking at all. If that's you, that's fine as long as it's not any unclean food. If you cook, a lot of times with me, I'll put my food in a crock pot, put my vegetables in the crock pot, vegetables and potatoes, vegetables, beans and rice, whatever the situation might be, put it in a crock pot, put some vegetable broth in there, and let it cook in the crock pot overnight. Okay. And then my food is ready to go. I'm not having to think about, oh, what am I going to eat? Or I'm really, really hungry because I didn't prepare. Okay. Think about those things. Think about what you're going to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the Shabbat, and prepare those things in advance. Okay, if you know you have to go grocery shopping and things of that nature, make sure you get those things done in advance. So you're not trying to do all of these things last minute. Okay. And I know for me, when I was working in 3 places, when I first started observing the Shabbat, I actually had to start preparing on Thursday. Okay. I had that because my schedule was so jam packed and so full. And so observing the Shabbat really caused me to learn how to be more organized with my time. It helped me to realize that I had to think about what I was doing with my time, because what I did with my time during the week affected how I rested on the Sabbath day, and was not just physically, but mentally. And so now my mind doesn't go to the place of, oh man, I didn't do this. Oh man, I didn't do that. Because now I've learned over time how to prepare for the Shabbat. And like I said, if you have children, if your entire family, observes the Shabbat, then get everybody involved in the preparation. Get everybody involved in cleaning the house. Get everybody involved in, doing the cooking and things of that nature. Get everybody involved in, if you're going to teach a lesson at home. And if you are going out and you actually gather with other believers at an assembly, you even have to think about that. It's like, okay, am I going to go out and assemble with other believers? Then how do we prepare for that? Okay. And how much time am I going to spend when I gather at that assembly? And what am I going to do? What is going to happen with me and my family when we come back? Okay. Are we going to have a time of reflection about what we learned at the, at the assembly? Or are we going to come back? Are we going to take a nap? Are we going to come back home and eat? These are things that you got to think about. If you worship at home, do you have people that are coming in? Are you going to have company? Because that is going to affect your preparation and how you're going to deal with the Sabbath day. It's different when it's just you and your family. But you might have people that's coming in from out of town, and they may want to observe the Sabbath with you and what have you. You may have to prepare more food. You may have to make sure that there's places for them to sleep if they're staying overnight. These are things that you have to think about, and they may observe it different than you. Okay. And so you may have to talk to them in advance and say, hey, they're coming into your home, and say, this is how we observe the Sabbath day. We do this, we do this, we do this, we do this, because we have children. These people may not have children, or they may have children. Okay, so you may have to talk to, this married couple or this person or this family that may be coming into your home and observing the Sabbath day with you, and talk about these things in advance so it can be an enjoyable time for your family as well as their family. This, we're talking about preparing for the Sabbath day and how necessary it is for you to adequately prepare for the Sabbath day, which in turn allows you to be able to enjoy Shabbat and speak of it with delight and actually rest and actually, focus on the Most High Yah in prayer, in praise, in worship, in meditation, in rest. Okay. So think about that. Think about how you have been preparing for the Sabbath day. You know, have you been doing your, cleaning your house in advance? Have you been going grocery shopping? What have you been eating? Are you sitting down there like, oh my gosh, I'm starving. I'm so hungry because I didn't, get my food together prior to the prior to Shabbat. Think about that. You know, um, if you're going to drink smoothies all day, make sure that your smoothies are prepared in advance. Okay? If you're going to have salad, make sure that they're prepped in advance. Okay? All of these little things are very, very important. But so make sure that you're preparing mentally and spiritually. If you have particular things that you want to read and study and meditate on, in scripture, get those things together so that you can really dig in and feed, on those passages of scripture spiritually, and really use that extended time that you have on the Sabbath day to really study scripture, read scripture. And a lot of times people forget that this is an extended amount of time that we can dig into the word, and really read and study and meditate about what we're, reading and what we're learning. Okay. And a lot of times we're just, always thinking about running, 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 running. No, we really need to get a proper perspective about the Sabbath day and how to prepare for it, and how, important that is to how successful Sabbath day that we have. You think about all the other things that you observe and or that you used to observe, and people say, "Well, how was your whatever?" And some people would say, "Oh man, it was great. We did this, we did that." Why? Because you prepared for it. You prepared for it. You set up for it. You did whatever you needed to do so that whatever you wanted to do on that day, you were able to do it smoothly. Well, that's the same thing that we have to do, with the Sabbath day each and every week. And we should get better and better at it because it's something that comes up each and every week. Okay, we should have smooth Sabbath days because we, first of all, we prepare for it spiritually. Get into the scriptures, read about the Sabbath day in the Torah, find out what you're really supposed to be doing. Don't take my word for it. Don't take some other teacher's word for it. You learn about it for yourself. Read about it for yourself so that you understand what you're supposed to be doing and not doing on that day. That's part of the preparation. Today is Wednesday. We got a few more days before Shabbat. Okay. Take the time out to read about it so that you can understand, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I'm not supposed to be doing. So that spiritually and mentally and emotionally, as well as physically, you can be prepared for this upcoming Sabbath day. And then, so when somebody asks you, how was your Sabbath day? You can be able to say, oh man, it was great. I got a lot of rest. I got to spend time in prayer. I got into the word, or whatever it is, that you, whether you were studying at home by yourself, with your spouse, with your family, with your children, or you go out to an assembly, and you worship with other believers. Either which way, there needs to be a time of preparation. You need to think these things out. Okay, the Sabbath day shouldn't be a burden We should speak of it with delight. We should look forward to it. We should prepare for it adequately. And adequate preparation eliminates all fear. Okay. And a lot of times people are fearful of really observing the Sabbath day because they really haven't put in the adequate preparation. They really haven't done what needs to be done on those other 6 days. So they kind of, loosely observe it, or they don't observe it at all. And so it's time out for us kind of, being loosey goosey with it. And look, I am not the Sabbath security. Okay. I'm just trying to encourage people who are truly trying to learn how to um, observe the Sabbath. And like I said, when I first started observing it, I had 3 different places where I was working. And some people have to work on Shabbat, unfortunately, and I was one of those people. And so I was home most of the day on Shabbat, but I had to go in like at 4 o'clock on the Sabbath day. And I worked in a store. And so there was buying and selling. And so what was my mindset? I really had to think, this was part of my job. But you know what I did? I was like, I am not going to buy, me personally, I'm not going to go over here and buy something from the store to eat. I am not going to buy something off of the shelf, because at that time I worked at Sally Beauty Supply, and I'm not going to buy things off of the shelf. Me personally, even though that was part of my job, I was still thinking about the fact that it was the Sabbath day. I kept my conversation to a minimum because I didn't want to, participate in a bunch of idle conversation, even though I had to work. you know so these are things that I was still keeping myself in the mindset that, hey, this is the Sabbath day. This is the Sabbath day. And even though I had to go into work, I still wanted to keep my mind set as much as I possibly could. And I did. I had to ask for forgiveness and for mercy, because I was breaking one of the commandments about the Sabbath day. So I did. I said, please forgive me, Abba Yah, for, having to work on your day. But everything else that I could possibly do, even while I was still at work, I did that. Like I said, I kept my conversation to a minimum, so I didn't get into a whole bunch of crazy talking with the other people that I worked with, because I didn't want to be participating in idle conversation. I didn't sit down there, oh, I'm gonna go over here next door and I'm gonna buy me something to eat. I kept all of that to I didn't do it. If I was gonna buy something, I waited until the sun set, you know, and what have you. And so these are just some ways that I, did that then, you know, um, and like I said, I repented for the fact that I had to work on that day. And I asked the Most High Yah for mercy, for mercy. And I finally got to the point where I was able to leave, that particular job position. So think about that. Um, think about that as you go throughout the rest of this week and you go throughout your day. How are you preparing? Adequate preparation is necessary, for a restful Shabbat. Think about it, pray about it, ask the Most High Yah to show you where areas in your preparation where you need to, bring it up to the next level, where you need to prepare more, where you haven't been preparing at all, where you need to be preparing differently, and what you need to do, so this upcoming Shabbat can be one that is restful and fruitful for you. So I just want to thank you for joining me for WOW equals Words of Wisdom number 30. And I pray that you have a positive, powerful, and productive day. Shalom.